Welcome back to Live Free 603, and I'm Ryan. Well, so we've kind of got caught up last night during the campfire chat, which was, this morning for East Coast subscribers of the channel. But yeah, so we kind of got past how my wife and I have been trying to step up our security since this incident. So a little status report. There was 7 out of the 12 hens still like inside their portion of the coop when I chased the bears off into the woods with this. I couldn't catch up to them and line up a shot that I was happy with. They really had a jump on me. There was still 7 hens left in the hen house, and there was 4 corpses that we could put together, as far as there was 2 that were still at the site of the whole massacre, and then there was 2 more out here with the 2 roosters that got chewed up pretty good. And then there was 1 MIA. So in the panic state that we were in, we were trying to make the best decisions we could. So in the moment, I decided to take out all the hens that were left from that entire enclosure that we had them in and move them in with the main flock. And now, because I raised these birds, I knew that integrating them into my main flock was not going to put my main flock at risk for illness reasons, but I was putting their lives kind of at risk because it was a very unknown factor integrating these 2 flocks together, especially when there's only 7 of them. And then there's the main flock is, up there over 30s, right? So that was going to be a tough integration for them. They were Isa Browns. I had confidence, but I felt like I had no other choice. So we moved everybody in to the run before we had woken up the main flock. So I put everybody and I let them have that, time. We didn't open up anybody else. We put the girls that were alive inside the main run. And then it was, dealing with the carnage. That was probably the hardest point in all of this. Seeing who and what. I know they're just chickens, but when you raise them up from, tiny little fluff balls for several years, it's hard not to get attached in some way. So we had to deal with the grief of it while still needing to keep everything going around here. So the first night was really probably the most intense. I literally spent the entire night out here. I created this blind that I will share for everybody here. And so in this blind, I basically have spent a lot of time out here, but mainly the first couple nights is when this really saw a lot of action. I've taken a couple raccoon from here, and also have gotten the jump on some possums and other critters. So this has been a invaluable resource, and it helps shield me from the road, which is in pretty close proximity to it, and it also shields me from the wildlife coming in. All right, so that's how I've been covering this lane, right? And always aiming away from the road, away from neighbors, right? Always aiming in this direction here, and then behind me is nothing for a very, very long time. And before it becomes anything, there's a large amount of hill before you get to anything that is anybody. So, and I've contacted all my neighbors on all sides to let them know that I'm currently engaged with predators that are trying to attack my pets and my livestock, basically. So that's important to do. And then also, please stay within your state and local and federal laws in your areas. Just follow your state, local laws and federal laws and all that other bullshit, please. Moving on. All right. So I've been manually guarding my land, but that took its toll. Going from a farm schedule, which is like waking up around 5 in the morning and going until about 9-10 p.m. and then sleeping and running that over and over again, you know, to out of the blue, we're just gonna, you know, stay up for over 48 hours and run guard duty like, you know, bandits are trying to invade the outpost. And I gotta be there to make sure that that's not gonna happen. Personally, overseeing it with my own eyes, listening with my own ears. So I've also been camping out on top of the chicken coop that is to this direction to cover this angle, because they've been trying to breach the one spot on the wall that I've just been leaving. I have a heart trap that's large enough to fit a small black bear in it. So what other means have I been using? Well, we have 4 cameras up now, and here I'll give you a quick little shot of what that looks like from the inside when we're not outside, right here. So we have this feed pretty much running 24/7. It covers the north, the east, the west, and the south perimeter around, which is now just the main Flock's chicken coop. So there's no more second flock any longer. I had a project started for Easter, which was the other rooster. He was the other rooster that was gonna move into a separate, like, bushcraft style pen that I was constructing for him, like I have for the other 2 roosters. And they were gonna live on the back edge of the property, and you know, that was gonna be my humane way to let them kind of live out their days. I don't mind keeping them; they're great pets. They definitely make for an interesting ambiance around the property, for sure. So we have the security cameras. I have locations that I stock from. What other things have we been using? Well, we bought a AM FM radio, just an old school analog radio, and we just tune into some kind of worship station that just runs friggin' slams Bible quotes all night long, and we've observed the behaviors of the small predators. They don't seem to be affected by the radio as much. We haven't had any big predators return since we've had that radio running, which I would say was like 3 days after the attack. It's working? I don't know. But a lot of people have suggested, keeping like a radio on if you're not around. It's better than nothing, right? And they say talk radio. That way, just hopefully the animals just hear talking and keep going. I think that's the point of that deterrent. So another thing I've been doing is just what alpha predators do. They use their urination to mark territory. So I've been just around the perimeter on the wood side as much as possible. Just whenever I gotta go, just been going out here, marking my territory. I also forgot our last line of defense against this attack has been kind of through genetics, I guess, right? So there was that one chicken that was MIA, and that was the one chicken of that flock that had been showing signs of kind of being bullied by the others because she was extremely smaller than the rest of them, which is usually the case when it comes to things like that. And she had these like neck feathers that curved and like kind of went in and crossed over each other, and she was very bold and brave. Would always fly and land on my shoulder. I'd feed her by hand every night to make sure that she was actually getting, sustenance. And she was one of the ones that was missing, and I was kind of devastated. I'm not even gonna lie. I put a lot of time and effort into that bird and making sure she was healthy, and then during all the emotional aftermath of everything and seeing the look of my, on my wife's face, seeing what had become of who didn't make it, Squirrely was the one that was missing. And while I was, burying Oreo and the others together, my wife just kind of was like, there's a chicken. And we had already put the survivors in the main run. And lo and behold, one of the chickens had gotten away. And chicken was Squirrely. And she was injured. Her legs were not working that great. She was missing like all her belly and upper thigh feathers because she had been in a bear's mouth and they must have dropped her or something. And then she heard the roosters that always crow, and for once they finally served a purpose other than being a pain in the ass, and kind of gave Squirrely something, I guess, to aim for, because this was like an hour or so, I think, after we had first found them. And so we brought her inside, and we've been nursing her back to health. She's spending all day in the main run, integrating herself with the flock, and then because she's still kind of showing signs of not being 100% yet, we bring her in at the end of the night, and but on the second day she laid an egg. And then that reminded me that that chickens store the seed of roosters that they mate with up to 2 weeks inside themselves. So we decided that, screw it, we're gonna get an incubator. And we're gonna try and have Oreo live on and hatch some of his eggs. And so we got about a dozen together that were fertilized, and we put them in the incubator, and 10 are still looking to be, you know, what they should be through candling. And so now we're gonna just try and learn the whole process, I guess, ourselves. The money we save is negligible. It's not really like, you know, spending $5 to $8 on a little chicken Tractor Supply or wherever is not that big of a deal financially. But you know, if we raise enough of these flocks, and I guess, you know, $50 to $80 every time we get another 10 or 12 to our ranks, you know, will start adding up over time, especially if we plan to introduce about like 2 to 3 10 to 12 sized bird flocks into the main flock every year. So, you know, eventually we're gonna have a lot of birds. And then the other thing that I keep forgetting is we have a Connex storage container that we're gonna have delivered here now that we finally got rid of all of the old debris and trash and stuff from our old remodels and all of the changing over of our heating systems. All that stuff has been just kind of undercover, tucked behind a fence, out of sight, out of mind for a couple years now. And because we got this access road that finally allowed us to like actually pull a truck in here and get rid of all this shit. We scrapped all the metal, we brought all the plastic to the dump, the mattress in, you know, we just had all kinds of shit that just, we didn't want on the property anymore because we're not a fucking junkyard and we're not a scrap yard. So we had to get rid of it, and now it's gone. So now we can finally move the shipping container that we own, that we have stored elsewhere off property. And we're going to be able to take that shipping container and utilize it as like a bear-proof chicken coop. It's going to take some modifications, some work on the inside, and installing some like exhaust fans and other things like lights, etc. It's going to be some work to get us to the point where I feel we'll be 100% secure in both their health. So like the place that I have them living is not going to be like detrimental to their health. Shipping containers don't have the greatest like airflow and vent. And, like, you're not supposed to like live inside of them unless you like actually modify them to do so. So I want them to be both healthy and safe. And we both feel that this is the best solution. Like, yeah, we've invested a lot in cameras, but I don't want to be like on call, you know, wildlife eradicator. I would like for this war with Mother Nature to end. We had one of the biggest owls. Like, this is how bad the predator situation is getting this season, at least in the Northeast where I'm at, is that even the owls are starting to like land literally out in front of our security cameras, staking out our chickens. Like, this is how bad this is getting. Like, I think it's not just humans that are heading for some kind of famine. I think this season, what did the local natives, they're saying it was the acorns weren't right last season, and now the wild animals don't have enough food produced by nature to sustain even them, right? So this is why people that have livestock, irresponsible trash habits, as far as just leaving trash just sitting in a trash can outside their house, You know, I mean, even when they're not desperate, you do something like that and they're gonna come in and tear that to pieces, drag it out to the woods and leave all that stuff for you to pick up. Hopefully this will be informative for other fellow chicken tenders out there that might live in areas that have some serious predators. Anything with claws that can leverage and rip into stuff, you know. These tactics have been what have put our families' minds at rest, and allowed us to function normally again. And by that I mean, you know, just keeping daytime hours while, you know, keeping a much more mindful watch at nighttime now that we got all the cameras up and we can use it to alert the phones. None of it needs internet either, which is great. It all runs on like an app, which has already been installed on all the devices it needs to be. All it needs is a Wi-Fi network, and all I need is to generate power to create a Wi-Fi network. So I can keep the system going even during a grid down scenario, which is why I'm staying away from things like electric fences and stuff like that, because until we have a more permanent solar solution for the house, I don't really kind of want to fucking mess with an electric fence, because if I lean on that electric fence for defense and the grid goes down and I don't have that asset any longer, then I'm going to be at a disadvantage to where I have myself trained as a property owner to defend my livestock and my pets and my family, right? So if I am training for potential situations that happen in future events, I want to have like a system set up that is going to be there and going to be the somewhat similar or same system that I'm going to have going into shit hits the fan. And that just means that I put more pressure and responsibility on myself at that point, right? I could fucking easily just go down to Tractor Supply, throw $1,000 on the table, and be done with it probably, right? But that would kind of be like the normie way to do something, and that's what we're trying to break away from here, is that normie mentality, that like what would a guy with a lawn and a 9 to 5 that is a wage slave to send taxes to the chosen people, you know what I mean? So okay, so now some more like actual tools that I've been utilizing. You know, what has actually been an asset and what is just kind of something that I've felt is maybe not like what I was like, oh yeah, out of the box, this is gonna be awesome. Because there's been a couple like things that, you know, I had this idea in my head, but then when it came to like actually doing it in the field, it felt like awkward and disorienting, and we'll get to that. So what's like one thing that I've been using practically a lot? Here, we'll start with this. So I've been able to like reinforce entrance doors and things like that that I feel as though were a risk. Ever since the bear situation, I felt like if I'd maybe secured down that wall unit, that the bear tore off better with some more framing and some added screws and things like that. Might have slowed him down enough that we would have scared him off before we had gotten any loss. You never know And when situations like this happen, you always start like questioning your decisions that you made prior to the lead up of the event that happens. So you start like questioning yourself basically about like everything you did, like if I had done this, if I had done that, and you can like fucking drive yourself crazy with it. So this thing's been great. Just having this on me when I'm doing my nightly stuff, to know that for whatever reason, if I were to need my backup, because I caught a failure and I have a charging bear, to have this here on my hip. So that's been, getting used a lot. Not ashamed to admit. So I've been using my backup build, or my clone, right? My clone training 22LR build, right? It's just literally mimicking the current build. No magnifier on it, with this Olight Odin. And I gotta say, man, this thing's taken a lot of raccoons and a possum in the last 2 weeks. And I was using this mainly because of the sound. Definitely not due to the caliber or anything like that, or the ammo being lighter. I can carry 1,000 of these and only 200 of these or whatever, right? But no, it's just literally due to sound. And now that this is becoming less of an issue, I might start using this more. I'm not sure though. This is a little workhorse. The ammo's cheap. That I would say is its one, its other redeeming quality, other than it being low sound, is the fact that this is super cheap to shoot. And you're not always gonna hit your shots on these small little predators. And especially possums, they like to pretend like you took them down. Little friggin' Oscar award-winning actors. But so that AR build that has a 22 long rifle converter kit in it has been great. I've been running this chest rig when I do stake out. I'll have this on, and I got one extra mag for the AR with the 22, and then I've just been running just normal, what I have for my kit normally. Another thing I've been using a lot is my Whoopee. When it gets to like 2, 3 in the morning, if you're on stakeout, it can get pretty chill at night. Because obviously we're going no fire, we're under light discipline, so we can't really be giving our position away with a fire. And it's been raining a lot off and on, so having a good raincoat on hand was always good to have. Kept my Whoopee dry a lot when I needed to move out of cover. So yeah, there was that. This little sling pouch that's got pockets everywhere, it was my old man's. He used to carry his O2 tank with it, and all his breathing shit. And yeah, I don't know, I just like the vibe. Little sling bag. I had this, and I would fill what I was like taking with me for the night, that I just had like loose stuff like this. I did a lot of passive watching through night vision, just sitting there, stalking, using the IR strobes or the IR floodlights that come with these cameras that we got, and just kind of sitting there and waiting. I gotta say though, using this in unison with the thermals together, you know, so one eye and one eye, was not as like cheat code as I thought it was gonna be. When I was waiting for the enemy to come in, I preferred viewing everything passively through the night vision. And another reason behind that was because the Iris has the IR mode with the floodlight and the laser. And so I was able to actually score a couple like 100% in the dark takedowns. And I didn't have this suppressed at the time. I knew that I wanted to camp out in complete darkness, so I took the bolt carrier converter from the spare rifle and I dropped it in the BCM, and the night vision combined with the thermal at once, for me, has now been put on the back burner. So now I keep this on kit and I pull this out. And so what I've been using the thermals for is if I do get an engagement and they run, I can use the thermals to track them running away and pick them up. But then, you know, either return to using night vision or locating their 20 and using white light and just taking your shot that way. So I've gotten a lot of practice using both of these, just almost in completely different ways, but like in tandem together. So it's been an interesting training. And then with the bump helmet having the Surefire on it, I mean, when you combine these three together, it makes guarding your property and your homestead, your livestock, your pets, everything that much easier. Because I'll tell you this, you know, we kind of been living in this like ignorant like bliss as homesteaders, raising livestock, raising animals, and kind of getting away as long as we have without having this like tragedy happen to us. We're trying to do the best with what we have currently. And that's all that counts, I guess, at the end of the day. We're providing these animals with a great life, and you know, if the worst is to happen, you know, at least they got to live a good life before that one really shitty, bad time. But those are some of the tools that I've been using around here to keep my property, my livestock, my pets, and my family safe from predators that might want to turn us into a sardine can, just like they did to my one flock. And if you want to escape from the system and you want to start homesteading, if you live in areas that have serious amounts of predators, these are things that you're gonna need to start doing. You're gonna need to be proficient with your firearms. You're gonna need to be ready to, at a moment's notice, just kind of stop everything that you're doing to make sure that your property is being safe and secure from the natural threats of this world. But with that said, hopefully everybody out there is living free, because over here in the 603, we definitely are. I'm Ryan, everybody. You be safe out there.